What's up, guys? It's Waves here, coming to you live from sunny shithole studios in beautiful San Jose, California. And today, I have quite the rabbit hole we're going to go down, related to this ad I saw on Instagram this morning. So you'll see it right here. Truth. You can bring bliss anywhere. And why that's bullshit. So this video is going to be in 3 parts. First part is going to be discussing what the hell these guys are selling. Second part is my first problem with it. And third part is going to be my second problem with it. So let's jump right into this. This substance here we're talking about is called Kin Euphorics. And at first I was thinking this was probably like a multi-level marketing fruit juice or sparkling water type of deal. Because I was thinking all this stuff they're talking about, euphoria, has to be some sort of intangible, mental gratitude euphoria as opposed to an actual high, right? Now, once I did a Google, though, I discovered I was wrong. This stuff actually does have some active ingredients. On Forbes, The 30, and Vogue, there were all articles about various reporters trying this stuff with the co-founder of Kin and having an experience where they really do feel effects. Now, Kin likes to call this the rise or rising. I like to call it getting high because that's what it is, because you are literally drinking drugs to get high. I think what they're doing around trying to hide that is really scummy, and that's kind of the second part of the video. But for the time being, let's just look at what this actual product is. And, if we want what's in it, is it worth it? So Kin actually sells 2 different things. The first one is going to be the Kin Spritz. The second one is going to be called the High Road. Both of these are very expensive. The Kin Spritz is 4 little 8-ounce cans for $27. The Kin High Road is slightly more cost effective. This gives you about 8 doses for $40. But still definitely a premium price point for these products. Definitely not something I might just impulse buy, not something cheap. But what's actually quite interesting when we look at the active ingredients here, contains hibiscus extract, GABA, cytocline, caffeine, 5-HTP, rhodiola extract, which is like a rose extract, phenylethylamine, and tyrosine, okay? Now, I think what a lot of the people who buy this might not realize is these nootropics are not anything special. This isn't some crazy thing they've figured out themselves. This stuff is available online and has been available online for a long time at a much lower price point. So if I go here to a site like liftmode.com, I'm not associated with these guys. I do use them occasionally, but I'm not being paid by them or anything like that. There's many other sites that offer this exact same type of service. But you'll see here, whether it's your 5-HTP, your L-tryptophan, your phenylethylamine, your GABA, all the substances that are available as part of Kin can be bought independently. So you can really pick and choose what you want. And if you actually look to buy these, they're a hell of a lot cheaper. They're not very expensive. These are very cheap to manufacture. Very cheap to get. So if you're someone who thinks that these substances might benefit them, there's no reason you need to go through Kin to get this stuff. You can just buy it, guys. And it's a heck of a lot cheaper. Okay. With that being said, though, I thought, okay, maybe I'm oversimplifying things. Maybe Kin is actually doing something with these substances. Maybe they're actually manufacturing them themselves, or doing something else that we can really be sure they're of a higher quality than, some of these sketchy online retailers. But after digging a little deeper into that, I discovered that is absolutely not the case. So what I did was I actually went ahead and asked their support, and you might see a cut in the video here, guys. I've been trying to record this for about 3 hours, and my little chat log with the support timed out, so I'm just using an older version of this video, although this is the current audio. We see that the support here admits that they do not manufacture their own active ingredients and are actually getting it from a global network of suppliers. Now, while she does say that they trust their ingredients, it ultimately comes down to the fact that they are not manufacturing their own active ingredients. Now, to some, that might not seem like a big deal. However, this really blows any claims they might have of higher quality completely out of the water, because these suppliers are not supplying only them, right? So there's got to be somewhere else where you can buy these exact same extracts that they're using to manufacture this, And that may well be liftmode.com or whatever other site. They might be sharing suppliers with a lot of these sites that offer things at much, much cheaper rates, frankly. The other thing is, beyond sites that are offering the same things as them, they might also be sharing suppliers with sites that are manufacturing things that are significantly more dangerous than anything contained in kin. Now, this is documented as happening in terms of supplements in general. A very large impact of this recently was on Sugar Sean O'Malley, an MMA fighter, who after taking a tainted supplement has been unable to pass these ostarine-based drug tests because the supplement vat or whatever, his creatine or protein powder or whatever legitimate supplement he was using was just made in the same vat as this sort of illegal steroid. And they didn't clean it out thoroughly enough that there weren't trace amounts in the supplement. So really, unless these guys change the way they manufacture things, you are absolutely just taking a risk anytime you take one of these drinks, just as it is with any other supplement, mind you. But it is still something very much to consider, and a risk like that is not something I associate with a premium product. Now, the cost is pretty galling, and it definitely was what initially pissed me off about this. But to be honest, after digging deeper, I think the really scariest thing about kin is not the cost, but the health impacts and the safety of this product. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over here to look at our supplement facts, right? And you might remember, this is about 8 different active ingredients that cause, the kin feeling or the rise or the high to happen, right? So for most people, honestly, they are not going to have taken many of these. Most people probably have had caffeine. Maybe some people have had GABA. I have taken GABA by itself before. But for the most part, these are not things people just have sitting around their house, right? So really, if you are drinking a kin, you are taking a drug cocktail of 8 different things, and probably you're taking a fair number of those, maybe 5 or 6 of those, for the very first time. Now, anyone who has a little bit of drug experience is going to tell you you don't want to try multiple new drugs at the same time. Because if you have a bad effect from one, you don't know which one it is, you aren't really learning anything, you're just putting a shitload of stuff in your brain all at once, and there's a lot of risks involved with that as well, right? So the fact that they're recommending you just fucking drink one of these things and see what happens is pretty terrifying. Now, beyond that, I think they do a lot to try to hide the risks of this stuff. If we go back to their Instagram, it's just all these very clean, pretty things. We rise. It's these, happy hipsters drinking this shit in cute little coffee shops and everything. There is nothing on here that frankly even suggests you could overdose on this stuff, right? When I first saw this stuff, I didn't think it even had active ingredients. So they're absolutely trying to make it sound healthy and natural, even though you are 100% putting mood-altering drugs into your body, okay? Anytime you do that, you're, running risk with brain chemistry as well. This stuff is going to boost your serotonin, boost your dopamine. What's going to happen when that comes back down, or what happens if you drink this stuff for a while and then you stop? There's a lot of questions I would have about this stuff that just are not documented, that are not answered out there. And then we get into the whole scary world of this thing's drug interactions. So if we go to their frequently asked questions, which is a long page with not very many useful answers and a lot of legal butt covering, we get down to when should I avoid kin, which is the very last question on this FAQ. And there's a lot of times you should avoid kin, according to this. Specifically, do not consume if you are breastfeeding, pregnant, or may become pregnant. Okay, so I guess women under 40 who aren't using condoms and birth control, stay away. Okay. Do not consume if you have a medical condition, including but not limited to GI disorders, heart disease, or hypertension. So any medical condition. I have an extra rib. Does that mean I'm not safe to drink this stuff? I think if I drank this stuff and had a bad time and took it to court, they would say, yeah, you should have known, sir. You had an extra rib, right? But really, they're just trying to have a big fucking blanket statement so that if anyone has a bad time with this stuff, they go, sorry, you weren't really following the instructions. Now, the other 2 things on here that are particularly scary are, for one, SSRIs have a bad interaction with this stuff. As I mentioned earlier, the This stuff raises your serotonin. And what a SSRI is a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, essentially meaning that your brain is going to break down or get rid of serotonin slower. So while SSRIs can be great if you're depressed and you've naturally got low serotonin, they can, cause you to have a little more serotonin in your brain, so it'll build up a little better. If you're taking an SSRI with something like this that's going to actually boost your serotonin level, you can find yourself in a very dangerous situation called serotonin shock syndrome, where basically your brain has too much serotonin than it can handle. This will raise your body temperature. This can cause seizures. This can cause your muscles to become destroyed. This can be very, very bad or even fatal. So the fact that they hide that you can't take this stuff with antidepressants in some little small print at the bottom of their FAQ is scary. But wait, there's more. Okay? It also says that you should not consume this with alcohol. Now, they are marketing this as an alcohol alternative, so that does make sense on the one hand. However, they're also selling this stuff in bars. So are you really telling me that you're selling a drink in a bar, but that if I take it with alcohol, it can kill me? And that's not an exaggeration, guys. Let me explain why this is a particularly dangerous interaction as well. I think their second active ingredient that we saw was GABA. And this actually binds to the same pathways as alcohol, or alcohol is considered what's called a GABA agonist. So essentially it's going to bind to your GABA receptors. And when we have someone go into a dangerous situation with alcohol where they've had too much, what actually happens there is their GABA receptor is being overstimulated. So they're taking this stuff to a bar now. This stuff is going to be sitting in bars where if you drink it with alcohol, it's going to make it significantly easier to basically have a blackout or another negative alcohol experience, up to and including, an alcohol overdose where you vomit, you physically stop breathing, you die. So it's very, very dangerous that they've got this stuff in a place where people are very commonly consuming alcohol, but they aren't really doing that much work in terms of expressing to people why this stuff could be dangerous or what this stuff is going to put into their body. In all honesty, I think what Kin reminds me the most of is sort of the early days of synthetic marijuana, and that's really why I wanted to make this video. When synthetic marijuana first started, it was these natural cannabinoids that were kind of similar to THC, but different enough that they would pass drug tests, and that was kind of how it all got started. This fella, I think, had made around 50 of them. Now, when the law caught up to synthetic cannabis after a few years, they basically started putting nastier and nastier chemicals into this stuff that weren't illegal yet, but were having worse and worse effects on the people who are actually smoking this, synthetic cannabis. So, whereas the synthetic cannabis of 10 years ago wasn't really good for you, it wasn't like that scary of a substance because it was fairly simple stuff in there. But now, any synthetic cannabis that's managed to dodge their way through legality up to this point is filled with some really nasty, potent shit because it's the only things they can still put in there that aren't illegal. So coming back to Kin here, it's like, okay, if this stuff does get popular, which I hope to God it doesn't, my question would be, what happens when one of these ingredients gets outlawed? Okay, if suddenly tomorrow the US government's like, yeah, actually, too many alcohol overdoses because of GABA, we're going to regulate GABA a little more strongly. And seeing as they're regulating, phenibut now, I wouldn't say that GABA regulation is necessarily too far off, especially since they're almost identical on a molecular level. But, is Kin going to hang up the towel at that point? Or are they going to say, oh, well, fortunately we have this other legal substance we found online, and we're going to jam that in there now. So now suddenly the ingredients of Kin are changing further, right? Even if you're just planning on taking it like tomorrow, though, I just think there's so many better ways to have the same experience. If you really want the active ingredients that are in Kin, buy them yourself. It's a hell of a lot cheaper. You can make some Kin in your fucking kitchen. If you want, some of the specific effects that Kin is offering, I would honestly just say, figure out what those effects are and either drive to that through a non-chemical means like exercise or sleeping in more, which honestly effects like being calm and having energy can be perfectly accomplished without drugs at all, guys. Except in extreme cases, of course, but in that case, Kin's not going to be fixing your fucking problem either. But really, there's no reason you should give these guys money, because what they're doing is they're charging a premium for something that's not a premium product. They're making it harder to use in a responsible way because they're hiding exactly how much of what you're taking. And they're also marketing it in a way and marketing it in locations where people are unlikely to realize there's dangerous drug interactions, and where people are likely to use it with alcohol, which they absolutely should not. So yeah, guys, I'm pretty disgusted by what this company's doing. I hope they go out of business. I hope this gets regulated, because I really don't think this is something that that people should see, especially that they're marketing to anyone 18 or older. So even someone who's not using alcohol yet might be tempted to try this shit. I don't think alcohol is a great thing. I don't really want kids drinking alcohol by any means. But what I will say is good about alcohol is a very well-researched substance. We know pretty much exactly what alcohol is going to do to you. We know how it breaks down. We know what happens after it breaks down. We know its long-term effects. There's plenty of people who have had alcoholism and lived a full life, and we kind of know the different stages and the different states and the different risks. It's very well documented. Now, alcohol is a terrible fucking substance too. Don't even get me started on this. But positioning something like kin as being safer than alcohol seems extremely dubious to me, since it's got, frankly, ingredients of lower quality and of, lesser federal regulation. These ingredients are also sort of unknown or largely unresearched. And finally, even the manufacturing plants sound pretty damn sketchy from the research I've done. So that would be my advice to you guys. Don't do kin.